أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد Inshallah ta'ala, on this day of Jumu'ah, the day of assembly, we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for blessing us to have another day to rectify matters with Him on this day. Inshallah ta'ala, I'd like to talk about al-khawfu al-raja'a. That is fear and hope. Fear and hope. Al-khawfu al-raja'a. This khawf is not the same as when we say taqwa or taqi. Usually when we hear the word taqwa or taqi, sometimes it translates as fear or fear of Allah. When we talk about khawf, we're talking about the fear that we may have from this world, the fears that we may have from gaining dunya, or the fears that we may have from our circumstances. Those types of fear. It's a different type of fear. And raja'a, hope, is that hope, that assurance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that as long as you stay on the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that all the things that you strive and that you endeavor in this world will be gained. And the best of our hopes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran is the Quran itself. The message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, وَمَا جَعَلَّهُ إِلَّا بُشْرَى وَلِتَطْمَئِنَّ بِهِ قُلُوبُكُمْ وَمَا نَصْرُ إِلَّا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. In the translation, it means Allah has made this message or the book. He has made it as an insurance to us, for our hearts. For our hearts. And that there is no help except from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the all-wise, the mighty. So first and foremost, we should have hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as long as we remain on the path, will grant us all our goods from this world. But when we don't do those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has required us to do, then we should have fear. That's the fear that we should have. Not the fear from having the stock market is not what it should be, or dinner's not ready today. Maybe my wife is not liking me anymore. Those type of fears, these fears from this world, the things that we go through, and we have fears. Sometimes we have fears that prevents us from doing good deeds, like giving sadaqah. Like we may have fear of losing our wealth, so we don't give out from our wealth. Because we have a fear that if we continue to give out from our wealth, that we're going to lose something. But in reality, that we're gaining from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we actually strengthen our hope by doing good deeds. We strengthen our hope by doing good deeds. As long as we are doing good deeds, as long as we're in a state of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we should have no fears from this world. But yet we do. In accordance with the opinions of the scholars, fear and hope are both obligations binding, and the two are inseparable. Because absolute fear without hope leads to despair, and hope without fear leads to a false sense of security, and both are prohibited. So when we have too much hope, right? If we have too much hope, we start getting neglectful. We just say, I can make it up tomorrow. Alhamdulillah, Allah is merciful. I can do it later. I'll get to that. So we start developing a false sense of security, that I don't have to make Tawbah, that I don't have to go back and apologize for my wrongs, to make things right with people. I have this false sense of hope that it's okay. I can let days go by and not make Tawbah. And the fear is the very fear that the shayateen want to have us in. He wants us to be in fear of losing dunya. He wants us to be in fear that things are not going right. So I got to focus on my dunya. I got to focus on gaining my dunya if I'm to pay the bills. If I'm going to pay rent, I have to focus on dunya. I don't have time for the deen. I don't have time to go to the masjid. I don't have time to sit up and listen to lectures and read Quran. I may have to miss some prayers to get my dunya. I have fear that if I don't go out and get dunya, then I can't pay the bills. Rent won't get paid. So we develop this fear. And this is the fear that the shayateen want us to have. The shaitan, the enemy of the believers. He wants us to have this fear. And he wants us to despair to where we forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now our deen and the sarat that we're on now is to dunya. It's not to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how do we spend our time? How do we spend our time? In fear. And all of this is connected with the stress and just living, just being in this life and the problems and the trials that we experience is all a game from the shayateen that causes us to have these doubts, that causes us to have these fears that we can't survive. We're not going to make it. I can't do this every day. It's too difficult. I worked 14 hours last night. How I'm going to get up for Salat? How I'm going to get up for Fajr? I got to pay the bills. This is shaitan. This is what he wants us to do. The minute you hear that, that's from shaitan. He wants us to be caught up, so caught up to where we forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When the fact is, we naturally have a fitrah. It's in our fitrah, this hope, this raja. It's in our fitrah. Because think about it. We see death around us all the time. We see death. We see car accidents. We see all type of things that could cause fear. But yet we go out day in and day out. We continue to go. Even though we see death right in front of us every day. Even though we see difficulty, we see people living on the street every day. But yet we still continue. So that's a hope. That's a type of hope. That's hope. We all have it. It's in our fitrah. But the shaitan want to remove even that from us to where we forget Allah. And then Allah says what? That he forgets us. This is what the shaitan wants us to do. So strengthen your hope by doing good deeds. Strengthen your hope by obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is how we strengthen our hope. And this is how we remove those fears. I have people all the time, we talk about this, and it's happening so much today. Now, with the things being what they are in this world today, with the economy, with the cost of gas, right now, right? Fear. It's too far to drive to, the Maulid because I don't have gas. So we have all these things that's going on. Now we have brothers, a lot of brothers right now that's struggling in relationships and having fears of maintaining their relationships. A lot of brothers. Now it's happening a lot amongst the Muslims. I always believe that We have the best deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us as Muslims. We have a beautiful deen. Everything is laid out to us. It's defined clearly for us. All we have to do is turn to it. That's it. Oftentimes, we allow the things from this world, we make our judgments based on this world. We don't look at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given. It's all here. It's in the Quran. It's in the Sunnah. This is a beautiful deen. We should be looking at how the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam looked at his wives and treated his women. We always want to run to the imam. We always want to run to a brother and say, man, we have to figure this out. The shaitan wants us to be at odds with each other, especially with our relationships. It says that shaitan wants us to sow enmity between our hearts, between each other. And we're letting it happen too much. So have hope, have raja'a. The very same thing. Sometimes we have to reflect on it. What brought you together? Whether it's with a friend, whether it's with a loved one, a spouse. What is that very thing that brought you together? That should be enough to give you hope. To keep doing it. That is hope. But the shaitan don't want us to have it. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد ختم النبيين وإمام المرسلين وأهله وأصحابه وأزواجه وخلف راشد وشكر الصالحين أجمعين. الخوف والرجاء, fear and hope. Now, this is a balanced deen. This deen is balanced. And we have to have some level of fear, which is normal, which is natural. Because if we didn't have some type of fear, then it would make us actually do things that would actually harm us. So fear, it's not haram itself to have fear. We should have fear about certain things. We should have fear about doing wrong. We should have fear that if we go out in the street and a car is coming, that we're going to be hurt. I mean, there's fear that is acceptable, that we should have a certain amount of it, all of us. The same thing with hope. It's a balance. So when we have hope, that it allows us to continue to go day in and day out, even though we don't always see the gains, we don't always see the fruit from what we have done, from our deeds, but that they're there, they're right there, they're coming. Why do we continue? Because of hope. Think of the drowning person, somebody that's drowning, right? If you're drowning, you don't just sit there and just let yourself just go under. You're going to be kicking, right? You're going to be holding on as long as you can until somebody come with that boat and get you out of that situation. That's hope. Where does it originate? From Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what Allah has placed in us, in our fitrah. So as we hold on, we all have this hope that's embedded in us. Just like we're in this building, we don't sit here and have fear that the walls are going to cave in on us, or else we wouldn't go inside, right? So we have this sense of hope. We all have it. But it's a balance. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran about the book, this message, the Quran, that should be enough to increase us in our hopes. That should be enough to increase us in our hopes. That in itself is a rahmah. is a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we had this. Just imagine if we didn't have hope. What type of people would we be if we didn't have hope? We would be in a very bad state. We would be in a very bad state if we didn't have hope. But let's try to increase it. And we increase it by good deeds. We don't increase it by going out and trying to get more dunya, thinking that's I'm going to feel better because I got the pay raise, right? Alhamdulillah, we got it. But we should go out and do good. That's when we should expect good to be returned to us. Don't expect good to come to you when you forgetting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That shouldn't increase your hope. Increasing your hope should be in when you're doing good deeds. When you say, alhamdulillah, I got up this morning. That's more hope. This is going to be a good day. I got up for Fajr. Alhamdulillah. This is how we increase our hope. When you see the person on the streets and you help him out, you do good. That should increase our hope. Alhamdulillah. I was, These are the things that we should do. And may Allah make us from those people that are sincere. Allahumma minka salam wa minka salam tabarakata yada jalali wa ikram. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا وحسنة وفي الآخرة وحسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا اغفر لنا وارحمنا وعافنا واعف عنا في الدنيا والآخرة وعلى كل شيء قدير. الحمد لله رب العالمين. Come into Salah. We're talking about the fear that we may have from this world, the fears that we may have from gaining dunya, or the fears that we may have from our circumstances, those types of fear. It's a different type of fear. And raja'a, hope, is that hope, that assurance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا. As long as you stay on the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that all the things that you strive and that you endeavor in this world will be gained. And the best of our hopes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran is the Quran itself, the message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, وَمَا جَعَلَّهُ عَبْدُهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. I'm back. Inshallah ta'ala, on this day of Jumu'ah, the day of Assembly, we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for blessing us to have another day to rectify matters with Him on this day. Inshallah ta'ala, I'd like to talk about al-khawfu al-raja'a. That is fear and hope. Fear and hope. Al-khawfu al-raja'a, this khawf is not the same as when we say taqwa or taqi. Usually when we hear the word taqwa or taqi, sometimes it translates as fear or fear of Allah. When we talk about khawf,